Hello everyone. I'm Inaoki, a front-end engineer at the Front-End Development Center. I want to ask who is writing CSS for your products? An engineer, a designer, or a coder, or a professional markup engineer writing it? When I first joined Line, the first project I worked on was the development of HTML, CSS Markup, and JavaScript business logics split between the two. At first, I thought the approach has disadvantages, but I realized there are a lot of advantages as well. Today, I'm going to talk about why the front-end of Line splits the work between the markup and business logic implementation. Today, we will introduce you to the demerits, the reason for choosing the division of labor, and how exactly we do the development. To begin with, when you hear about the division of labor between the markup and business logic, some of you may immediately think of demerits. I am one of them, but I think there are three disadvantages. The first is that HTML templates are maintained twice, one for markup and one for business logic. If you modify the HTML during maintenance, you need to modify the two files as well. The second is the issue of CSS scope. If you write CSS without thinking about it, it becomes difficult to maintain. From my own experience with hard-to-maintain CSS, I thought it would be better to use a mechanism like CSS in JS or CSS modules to solve this problem. The third question is the division of labor will slow down the development cycle. The concern is that when components become complex, the constraints of animations and DOM will cause a lot of backtracking. However, there are some advantages to the division of labor. Here are three. First, it's easy to reflect UI preferences. Secondly, JavaScript and CSS are loosely coupled, so it is easy to select the necessary libraries without affecting each other. And thirdly, parallel development is possible. Let me show you our workflow and go to details about this. This is when you do not have a division of labor and perform everything from markup to implementation of the business logic in one place. Designer review must be done before the release. This review is done after the markup, so the flow becomes overlapping like this. This flow shows when markup and logic work are separated. Designer review can be done at the end of the markup process, making it difficult for the review to affect the logic work. It is not uncommon to make adjustments to the nearest 1 pixel level when reviewing. By splitting the implementation of design and logic, we can reduce the number of context switches and focus on our own goals and tasks. All you need for such a flow is an environment where we can start writing HTML, ML, and CSS and review them immediately. To that end, we created a common template for the project. This is the front-end template. With this template, you can easily set the environment required for front-end development. It was originally a simple use, one-use SAS and PHP, but we have updated the libraries we used to keep up with the times. This is constantly updated through weekly markup and JavaScript staff study sessions. Now let's discuss the actual development flow using front-end template. First, create a new project. There are currently two ways to do this. One is to run the command using the front-end template, CLI. Or you can use the repository template features of GitHub. If you create a new project in this procedure, you will see the project framework with the directly structured like this. Under the packages directly. There is a directory for markup and the files for style lint, and the Sass build configuration is ready. If you develop a SPA or SSR application like React or Vue, create a new directory under packages. Thus, by separating package JSON for markup and JavaScript, control of dependencies become a little easier. Now the project is created. Let's do the HTML and the CSS markup. The markup flow is roughly divided into 3 steps. I don't think that's different from yours. As a feature, it uses 11ty, a static site generator, to generate HTML first. 11ty supports various template languages such as Namjax, JSX, and handlebars. Originally, we used PHP, but this year we decided to use 11ty so that we can develop only in the Node.js environment. We use Sass primarily for CSS. We use common CSS guidelines and the in-house Sass library. We have an environment that allows us to deploy the site with a single command during designer reviews. We will look at the markup in more details. This shows that the markup was done according to our internal CSS guidelines. We have followed the original naming convention based on BEM rules to specify class names. You can also write HTML using the template language, so you can easily check for the long text or when the data does not exist. If you can quickly verify whether the planned UI is technically feasible or not, you can learn early on about spec omissions and what cannot be produced by HTML and CSS alone. We try to make the cycle shorter and faster at this stage as well. Finally, let's load the CSS we just created into our JavaScript project. This is an example of Vue, but when you load the CSS, you simply specify the path. The HTML is nothing special either, just copy and import the 11ty template and generated HTML. The simplicity also gives you the flexibility to first write the HTML in a mock, build the Vue components, and then import the HTML for markup at the end. How did you like my session? At first, some of you may have thought division of labor is unusual. But we are also constantly updating our environment little by little every day, looking for the best way for the project. We hope today's session was to help you along the way. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.